Okay, we are 10 seconds in. We should have sound again, and we should be ready to get started. Today we're going to be continuing with the Pursuit of Happiness coloring book that we were doing last week. Um, excuse me. Hopefully my camera's going to behave this time. I know it hasn't been lately. But let's go ahead and swap over. And this camera, by the way, is one of the most finicky things I've ever dealt with. So, last week we did choose some very nice, bright, exciting colors for our Cappy. So we're going to continue with that theme, and we are using my set of gel pens. Every time I start my stream, my nose immediately starts itching. Don't know why. If the camera acts up too much, then I might end up swapping over to doing a gaming stream. We will see. I do want to show off a few pretties that I picked up today while I was out running around trying to find a emergency dentist that was open, even though the 4th of July is this coming Monday. So these are a set of a crochet hook and 2 knitting needles. I love these nice wide bottoms on them. I'm hoping that having something pretty will encourage me to knit more, because currently I have older plastic knitting needles that my mom basically took out of her stash when she set me up a box of knitting supplies as a Christmas gift, which is fine, by the way. I am not disparaging anyone who takes older things that they've had and gives them as gifts if they're doing it in a meaningful manner. She set me up with a box that she put some nice yarn in, and by nice I mean she considered it nice. It wasn't basic Red Heart. It was still at Walmart, but it was like the Peaches and Cream Kitchen cotton, which perfectly acceptable yarn, nothing wrong with it. Also picked this knitting needle up. That is a maple knitting needle with a rosewood cap, and it's a matched set. But she set me up with a very nice box. It's a Christmas-themed box, and it has a magnetic latch, but it looks like a book. And I love those sort of boxes. I love them because I can keep them on a bookshelf. They look very nice. They look very pretty and decorative, and I have quite a few of them. I store my... I just store a lot of things in those kind of books. I adore them, honestly. Well, boxes. They're a great piece, and they keep things nice and safe, and they still look pretty doing it. Alright, that said, let's go ahead and get on with the coloring part. So I think I want to move on to these dots on the face, and we haven't done a blue yet. We did purple. Actually, we did this purple and yellow, and I can see there's another space we did not do. Let's go ahead and use that same yellow from last time, and we're going to fill in these spaces around the flowers. Now, to make it so that you guys can see my picture, I did have to dim my lights some, and so it's a little harder for me to see if I am filling in the colors. That is one of the bad things about, working at night. Because when I did this last week, it was daytime. I had lots of bright natural sunlight to work with. Tonight, not so much. But that is okay. If I find any gaps in the colors later, I can just fill them in. But for right now, there we go. I got those filled in. And then, looks like we also need to do up here. Apparently our Cappy has a big yellow butt. Speaking of butts, I actually did a little bit of sewing today. My roommate has a Baphomet plushie that had developed a hole in the butt. So we made many jokes about Baphomet's butthole, and I sewed that up so that it was nice and looking the way it should have. Now these pinks, I'm not going to have the yellow right against those. I'm going to choose something a little darker there. But for the moment, we're going to fill in this space, which is more of the Cappy's butt. And I mean, it's fitting that the Cappy has a big butt, because capybaras actually have a fairly impressive rump. I mean, they are a rodent, and unlike their smaller brethren, they don't really fit through tight spaces. They don't need to. That's not what a Cappy's about. So they can have a fairly prodigious rump. Now they're not quite as built as, say, a wombat, because wombats actually use their butt as a defense measure, which is a neat fact about them. They dig burrows, and then if something tries to attack them, they will go into the burrow head first, and then they will have their butt just kind of blocking the entrance. And if the, frankly, unfortunate or foolish attacker tries to get in and manages to get its head past the protrusion of the butt, then the wombat will actually hike its butt up, and there is a bony plate in the wombat's ass that will literally allow them to crush the head of whatever is trying to get past them between their butt and the ceiling of their burrow. So, fun fact for you, and I'm sure everyone's heard this, but they also poop cubes. And they poop them in such a way that they end up stacked as a "this is my territory" thing. So, cube pooping creature that defends itself with its ass. There are your fun wombat facts for the day. Should I start including fun wombat facts with every video? I think I would run out of them too fast. Sure, I could include fun animal facts. Then again, I might end up censored, because most of the weird and bizarre animal facts that I've managed to retain in my head relate to penises. Because, of course, let's face it, I'm an inveterate. Inveterate? Is that the word? Whatever. I'm a pervert. I do not mind that fact. I recognize it. But, you know. Whoever drew this picture did not do a good idea on this part. Because they had it so that the purple was touching the yellow, but now I've got this spot where the blue is touching the purple instead, because there's just a gap there. Oh well, it looks nice. Let's see where to go from here. Cappies have a pink nose, and I figure mouth is red, so we will go with red for the mouth. Let's see, there is red. Actually, Cappies don't have a pink nose. They have a brown nose, just like the rest of them is very brown. We're going to go with this sparkly red for the tongue. Why not, right? Let's see. Things in the world of Mason. Ended up not going to sleep until well into the afternoon. uh, yesterday because I had a toothache, because that tooth is still being cranky for me, and I have not been able to get to a dentist because I don't have time, as a general rule. But I ended up with a toothache so bad that neither Orajel, or Anbesol, not Orajel, but Anbesol, nor, what is the word? Nor ibuprofen, that was the word. Neither Anbesol nor ibuprofen were doing any good for it. Hello. Are you able to hear the stream when you're in there? Okay, good. But the... I'm sorry. But neither of those were helping, so I ended up going out and trying to find an emergency dentist. Which, of course, I couldn't because my tooth decided to do all of this on the weekend that is right before 4th of July, which means that, of course, everything is closed, except, of course, all of the retail sales that are having their retail stores that are having their freedom sales. But so I couldn't find a dentist, so I went to bed very, very late for me, and then slept till very, very late in the day for me. Which, fine, as long as I got some sleep, you know? Not going to be able to do that tomorrow, of course, because I have work tomorrow night. But, okay. Cappy now has a mouth that is colored in. Now we need to figure out... So we've got some semi-repeating patterns on this, but not really repeating the way that I would think of it. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to use another green, and we're going to do all of these dots, including the dots in the centers of the flowers. This is a darker green, but it's a sparkly green because sparkles, who knows? Why not? So we're going to have this series of like hunter green with sparkle dots. Okay. Let's see. Yeah. That was my... I'm never quite sure how to refer to her. My significant other's girlfriend, who was coming through. She is a viewer on the stream today. Hello, Luna. But she does not have the authenticator set up for Twitch, so she can't chat, despite being a follower. So I do have that set up due to the hate raids that were taking place last September, I want to say. The ones that resulted in me taking a full month off of streaming while my friends and I that were streaming, were all figuring out what we were going to do. When Twitch did implement okay, you can set it up so that you have to have been a follower this long, or you have to have an authenticator, things like that, was when many of us went back to streaming, because we could then set up those security measures to protect ourselves and our viewers from the hate raids that were going on. I actually moderated for some of my friends to prevent those hate raids, and we definitely had our job cut out for us, because there were times that hate raids absolutely took place while I was moderating. But that has thankfully seemed to die back. I might at some point change back to, just like a 5 to 10 minute follow before you can chat, instead of requiring the authenticator. We'll see how things go. I am a very small stream. I am not monetizing this, but I also want to ensure that if I do have followers, that they are protected from the hate speech that was going on in those stream raids. So I'll have to decide what to do about that. I think I'm going to carry this circular down to the legs because they've got these ovals. And I think that'll tie things together really well. So, okay. Plus, I like green, so I'll use any excuse to have more of it. I don't have enough green. I've got 1, 2, 3. I've got 3 different greens, so I don't have enough to do an entire picture in nothing but the greens. But maybe if I had more different shades of green, I could. It's very interesting the way that some people can pull off these gorgeous monochrome, images, and they still have enough different shades within that one color that they create such a beautiful and often evocative picture. Picasso did that with his blue period, which a lot of people mock Picasso because of the cubism and the very, the faces. But you know what? The dude was doing what he liked. And that's kind of important for artists, doing what you enjoy. Because yes, you can absolutely make a living doing art if it's very commercial and it meets certain things. But there's a lot of artists I know who have been struggling because they're trying to make ends meet, and so they're focusing primarily on the commercial, and then they really regret the fact that they're not doing something that really is emotionally satisfying. We'll go with that. Okay. I don't remember if we used... I think we used this pink here last time. So we're going to use this pink this time. And we're going to go through and we're going to fill in around this green and see if that's a different color. Hopefully it is. If it isn't, that's fine. We'll figure something out. But it is very important for artists to be able to do things other than just what makes money. So I'm always thrilled to see things like Patreon and other avenues like that, people doing commissions and stuff, where the artist is kind of given free reign to work. I used to know an artist that would offer commissions, but it was with the caveat that, yes, I'll do your art, however, it's Halloween, so I'm going to do them in a costume, and I get to choose what costume I do. And I think that artist, from what I saw, had a lot of fun doing things like that. And I think that was a great idea. They enjoyed it. They got to do some, really cool pieces. And then, there's people... I love Patreon. I really do. There have been some changes taking place that I know some artists are not too thrilled with, which, absolutely, if the artist community, by and large, says, hey, please don't support me on Patreon, use this instead, I plan to do what I can to assist in that way. But I love the fact that there are artists who basically they say, hey, I'm not doing commissions. I'm going to draw what I want. If you like it, go ahead and support me on Patreon. And people do. And, I'm thinking about Patreon a lot lately because a friend of mine who is an artist just recently reopened his. And So I'm thinking about that a lot lately. Another artist I followed just got rid of their tiers and switched to a tip jar only system. Um, Another artist I noticed is very close to his X number of or X number of dollars coming in per month that will allow him to spend more time on the art, um, instead of having to work quite as hard as he does on the job that currently pays the bills. And I would love to see, one, those artists who are taking commissions actually be paid what those commissions are worth. Um, a lot of artists choose to have a lower amount that they get paid on those commissions, and I recognize why they do it. It's they feel that they will not get the commissions unless they do have that lower amount, and in some cases it's true. But I do try, when getting a commission done, to pay a little bit extra if I can, um, because I want the artists to be able to make a living wage off their art. And, if the artist is doing their art, but they're doing it for under an amount that is feasible for them, then they're not going to be able to continue doing that art. So, if you love the artist, be willing to pay a reasonable amount for them. Like, yes, I love cheap art too. It's great when, you're a poor, struggling person who can't afford to pay the actual reasonable amount. But, that old phrase, you can have it three ways. You can have it cheap, you can have it good, or you can have it fast. Pick two, you know. Who is... Someone is... Sorry, somebody's blowing up my Discord, so bear with me a moment. Sorry, Luna. She was just letting me know that she'd tried to do the verification and couldn't. So, okay. Back to the art. And back to, I guess, talking about art. A friend of mine is apparently going to be opening up commissions soon that follow the you have three choices: cheap, fast, or good. Pick two. You can have it cheap but good, and it'll take forever because it'll only be worked on when he has time and inclination to do so and doesn't have more pressing contracts. You can have it fast and cheap, but it won't be good art. And I mean, knowing him, it'll still be good art because he is an excellent artist, but it won't be his, okay, I'm going to spend a long time and finesse these details, etc., so that it's effectively perfect art. And of course, there will be the option of you can have it, good and fast, but it's going to be expensive. Because that's, how these things work. And I applaud him for making that decision instead of, undercutting himself by just setting a flat rate, and then if he has commissioners who try to push him for more or better, etc., he ends up having to spend more time and not be able to work on other art because he's trying to fulfill their needs and he's not getting paid enough to make that a worthwhile endeavor. So yeah, in short, pay your artists well. And if you can't afford the art, well, just don't get it, or see if you can do a barter system if they're up for that. Like, I used to do art where I was good at writing stories, and I had artists who could draw but they couldn't write, so they would trade me, and I would write a story for them, and they would do art for me in exchange, and it worked out very well. Um, or, if you're a crafter, if you can create things like maybe you crochet like I do, or you're really good at sewing. If there's something that your artist would like in exchange, that's another option. There are all sorts. Basically, we need to just, as a whole, and this is speaking to humanity in general, let's say, we need to focus on making certain that everyone is compensated fairly for their labor, whatever that labor might be. And that includes artists, crafters, etc. Like, if you're buying a handmade quilt, you should be expecting something that's in the hundreds of dollars, because that is made by hand. It is not this was made on a machine by a computer that created the pattern. No, each piece was individually cut out by hand, sewn together, and yes, it's a sewing machine, but do you know how hard it is to use a sewing machine for hours to piece together a quilt? It's forever, and it is exhausting to do. Or you'll have the artists who actually do things, with needle and thread, no machine involved, and how they don't feel that they should be charging in the thousands for that amount of work, given how long it takes me to sew a mask by hand, okay? It is exhausting. It is often bloody, let's face it, especially if you're me and you're very prone to stabbing yourself with the needle while sewing. It's just not getting compensated what it should be, honestly. And, we all really should be able to make a living doing what we love, or at least make a living where we can just work one job, and maybe it's not our passion, maybe it's not what we love, but it's something we are willing to do, and then we have time and money enough to do what we actually are passionate about when we're not working. And that's the real struggle that a lot of people are dealing with right now, is they're realizing, during quarantine, okay, a lot of people were able to focus on things they were passionate about, and now they're being asked to go back into the office or back into the workforce and do things that they are not passionate about, and do them for such a small amount of money that they don't have time or money to pursue those passions now that quarantine is over, which, by the way, it shouldn't be. COVID is still very much a thing. We should all still be wearing our masks. If you are capable of getting vaccinated, you should be getting vaccinated. I need to see if I can get a second booster here soon, because I am due for one, if they have opened them up for my age group, which I'm pretty sure they have. Anyhow, we as humans, we crave creativity. It's what we are. From the first, cavemen discovering that they could make mouth noises and could make different mouth noises to create what is effectively the first human song. to the painters of the cave art that we have all seen drawings of or pictures of on walls. We as humanity, we create. It's what we do. And the fact that we have, for so long, allowed ourselves to be denied that, and are finally coming to the realization that we have been denied that, is a pretty big thing. And it's creating at least a desire for a shift from the current, this is just how things are, way that we've been living, to try and... That's not orange. That's a bright pink. It's a different pink than I've been using, but I thought it was an orange. We're going to get an orange. But yeah, it's definitely a shift that really does need to be taking place. And I know that corporations are definitely opposed to this shift because it means that they have to pay more, and therefore less money goes into the pockets of the stockholders and the CEOs, who really, in a lot of cases, aren't doing anything for the business. They provided the capital to get it started. That's pretty much it. And so there's, yeah, we really need to rethink a lot of things as a society, as a people. Like, there are definitely countries where workers are well cared for, are paid a living wage. I don't know what it's going to take to get that here in the U.S. I don't know if it's going to happen in my lifetime. I'd love to see it, but I have to recognize the realities of the situation and where the stumbling blocks are. Sadly, those stumbling blocks are largely politicians and businessmen who can afford to pay the politicians to prevent change from happening, which is what's been going on for quite some time. Things are moving, things are changing. It's just much slower going than many of us would like. And sometimes that change seems to be going backwards. We're working on it. Those of us who are voting and trying our hardest to vote in ways that will allow for those changes to take place. But there's a lot of stumbling blocks that are having to be removed. And there's lots of us working towards those changes. Don't get me wrong. There's definitely people there doing it. The problem is having the time, the money, because it takes money to make these changes, because you have to have lobbyists on both sides. Now, thankfully, there are people willing to do things like help with the Get Out the Vote program and Rock the Vote programs. People who are willing to help people get to the polling places in the areas where polling places have been shut down as a move to disenfranchise voters. Make it harder for them to vote, therefore they just don't vote. But there are people who are willing to drive people to the polls, who are willing to, do these things to help others be able to vote. And I applaud the people making those efforts. And maybe someday I'll be able to join them, but given how things are currently, I only have so much time and mental energy to spare, and most of that is being used on taking care of my kids, taking care of my household. Speaking of the household, the date of closing on the house has now at least from what I'm seeing, been moved to the 5th. If it gets moved again, I am going to be very peeved, but hopefully we'll be closing on the 5th and we will finally be done and can start actually moving into the house. Because we already have stuff packed and in the back of my van, and I'm getting leery about driving my van because I'm afraid that some of the delicates will get knocked over and broken. Because, of course, I had the brilliant idea of, oh, hey, we'll just go ahead and pack things in the van and it'll be fine, without remembering that, oh yeah, I have to drive the van, and I'm not a bad driver, don't get me wrong, but the van, I love it, but it corners like a pregnant yak, so I'm always worried that some of the boxes will get knocked askew or fall. Okay, now I need to figure out what color for the Cappy's nose and for this area around the face. Let's go ahead and do... I don't want that metal look again. We're going to go with a pale glittery blue. And what the heck? This Cappy can just be... oh, that's not pale as I was anticipating. Oh well. It's a metallic glittery blue. And of the metallic glitters that I have, it's the lightest, so it's as close as we're getting to pale glittery blue. Anyhow, other things. I'm very much looking forward to the move. I really am. I want to have some space to myself. I want to be able to repot my plants and get them into a... there went my bottle of clove oil. Get them into a better growing situation. I have some poor plants that are definitely taller than the tank that they are currently in, and have taken to leaning over to grow, and then I've got some that I keep having to just vigorously trim back because there's nothing more I can do because of how quickly and energetically they are growing. But we are, once we've moved, I'm going to have a larger tank for some of my succulents, and then for the non-succulents, I'm actually going to have pretty much an entire room that cats are not going to be allowed in, that is basically a plant room. It's a former porch that was screened in and then walled in, but it has lots of big windows that are east facing and get a lot of sunlight, and we're going to put in a French door between it and the rest of the house, which will keep certain plant-chewing cats away from the plants, and it'll also mean that they get lots of bright early sun, and I'm assuming, given the big windows, they will have plenty of warmth, so we won't have to worry about them getting too cold in the winter, which has been a concern here. Even with the AC, it's been kind of or with the heater, it's been kind of an issue with certain plants because it gets very cold here without central heat and air. So that will hopefully deal with some things and just give me a nicer place where I don't have to, like, currently whenever I have to water the whole set and not just a few, I have to take them into the kitchen, put them on a baking sheet on top of the stove, because there is just no room on the counters or in the sink as a general rule. Water them there, and then, if after they've had a while to soak, I drain them and then bring them back to my desk. And it would be really nice to have a place where I can just, water them and not have to do that, or even just have a specific spot where I can keep a old, used, dingy baking sheet and water them there in it every week and not have to take them to the kitchen to do so, which will, of course, free the kitchen up for many other things. I'm looking forward to the fact that there is space above all of the cabinets in the new kitchen where I should be able to store things that don't get used a lot, like the bread machine and the dehydrator and the bamboo steamer, but they'll still be in the kitchen and therefore more easily accessible. Because at the moment, the bamboo steamer and the dehydrator are in the dining room on top of a cabinet, but it's hard to get to that cabinet because there's a bunch of boxes in the way of it, and they've been there for a very long time. And so it just makes it really hard to use these items that I would like to use more. I mean, especially the bread machine, but the bread machine's in the top of the pantry, and to get to the top of the pantry, I have to climb on a step stool, but there's no room to use the step stool in the space in front of the pantry door, because the pantry has all sorts of other stuffs on the floor in front of the pantry door. So there's just no way for me to get to the bread machine, which means I can't make my own bread. I mean, I could with, like, a bowl or, but I like using the bread machine. It makes it easier, and it makes the house smell amazing. So, I'd really like to be able to use those things. And the dehydrator is another thing that I really want to get back to using, because I like making my own jerkies. I like knowing exactly what went into this product that I am going to be eating. And I like being able to flavor them the way I want, so that I don't have to, okay, I'm buying beef jerky, now I have to read every single ingredient and hope they didn't summarize all of the spices that they used with just the word spices, which inevitably means that I'm stuck going, does this have cayenne pepper in it or red pepper? Am I going to get very, very sick from eating this? But I'll have no clue until I'm having the allergic reaction, which is what normally happens unless I specifically buy the teriyaki, which they don't add cayenne pepper to. But they add a ton of sugar, which I'd rather also not have in my jerky. Like, when I do a marinade for homemade jerky, I generally use a fruit juice as the sweetener. Maybe I will add some honey. If it is a pork jerky, I will sometimes add some brown sugar, because, pork. But I know what's in it, and I know how much went in it, so I have a rough idea of how much of what is in each serving that I have. And I kind of want that. I kind of like knowing what's in my food. Anyway, we are going to but yeah, I'm looking forward to having space. Still trying to convince the twins that they need to take 2 separate rooms, because they really, I feel like they will fight a lot less if they have their own rooms. They feel that it won't really matter, because most of what they fight over is the computer. But the thing is, there are things other than the computer that they definitely fight over. Hawk struggles to sleep. He struggles to get to sleep as early as his brother does. His brother struggles to get to sleep if there's any light in the room. So Hawk wants to lay awake and read, and Fox gets very upset when he does because he has a book light to read by, and the book light keeps his brother up. And so that's, something that would definitely be mitigated by them each having their own room. And we could put blackout curtains in the bedroom of Fox, and there's also the fact that Hawk prefers a much warmer temperature in the room, while, Fox likes it very, very cold as he can get it. So with them having the same room, it's either one is hot and the other's cold, or the other's cold. And so I would like them to have their own rooms where they can, adjust the temperature somewhat. Now, of course, they're not going to have their own thermostats, but you can open or close heating vents or cooling vents to maintain a temperature that's more comfortable for you. And so, I think that, having their own rooms will help mitigate that too. One of them, due to allergies, needs a humidifier in the winter. The other does not, and finds the noise from the humidifier annoying. So, again, they fight over these things, and it's like, I would love to put an end to this fighting by, having you guys split up. But they are both very convinced that they would still fight anyway instead. And so, and they like the fact that they have a bunk bed, because one of them prefers to sleep very high up, the other prefers to sleep in sort of a cave, and has therefore put blankets all around the bunk bed, bottom half. And I'm like, okay, well, there's an easy fix for that. We get a loft bed for he who prefers high places, and put the desk underneath it so he has more room. We get a canopy bed for his brother, and ta-da! They both have their own space that meets their needs a bit better without infringing on their brother's. They're not sold on the idea, so that might change. I don't know. But I would hope that they would figure it out before we go buying new furniture and getting everything moved in. Because furniture is expensive, and moving things in takes a lot of effort. We're going to have to get bookshelves too. We're so used to the fact that so many of our rooms here in this house have built-in bookshelves, and the new house does not. So that'll be a fun expenditure. And of course, some of our bookshelves that we have currently are just very, very old. Like, gotten secondhand when my partner and I first got married, old. And we've been married for, it'll be 20 years this year, so yeah. Other news, Sun Tzu, our 19-year-old kitty, did finally get her tooth out. She's still kind of recovering. She's very, she likes the fact she's getting so much wet food. She's not liking the fact that she is not allowed to free feed right now until we get the bill of health from the doctor that says yes, she can go back to eating dry food. So we had to put the wet food, or the dry food has to be kept up where the other kitty Figaro can get to it, but Sun Tzu can't. So it's on top of the fridge because Figaro sleeps up there anyway, and Sun Tzu could not for the life of her jump up that high. I mean, she's 19 and has arthritis, and she was a tiny cat to begin with. So she's grumpy that she gets fed at set points of the day, and that when she is getting fed, she generally gets given medicine. Um, Generally, though, thankfully, Figaro is an incredibly well-behaved cat, and rather than, uh, shoving Sunzu aside to eat Sunzu's wet food, she politely waits until Sunzu finishes the wet food, and then she eats what's left. Or if we are thinking about it, we will put the can from the wet food down, and Figgy will lick the can clean whilst Sunzu eats hers. That didn't work. This works, though. And then once Sunzu finishes with what she wants, Figaro will eat the rest. It works out. It's very good that we have such a polite cat along with Sunzu. I don't think that Lady would dare to even consider letting Sunzu have the wet food without horning in on it. Then again, Lady is extremely food motivated. Figaro is not. I have yet to find a treat that Figaro will consistently eat. Figaro is very hunt-oriented. It's about the only thing she wants is to hunt. She doesn't really play with toys. Every now and then she'll play with one of the toy mice, but that's about it. She doesn't really chase the wand teasers or anything. She doesn't really play with the toy balls. None of those. Let's see. Where else can I use this blue? Let's go ahead and bring it down to the feet. Okay. So, but yeah, once we get moved into the new house, Sunzu will be in the office space with me, which means that I'll handle giving her wet food, medicating her, etc. And Lady and Figaro are just going to have to figure it out. And I'm sure there'll be cat fights. But are we really surprised by that? Generally, though, after a few fights, they will establish a pecking order. We just haven't really been able to do that here because we can't afford to risk Lady attacking Sunzu, which she's tried. Because Sunzu is a very old, arthritic kitty, and we don't know that she would... we don't know that she would survive if she actually got attacked. Like, Figaro, if Sunzu smacks at her, will immediately back down. Which is funny, because Figaro really, really wants to play with Lady. And the way that Figgy plays is very rough. And that's why Lady is so convinced that Figaro is absolutely trying to murder her. I am thinking I'm almost done for the night because I'm reaching a point where when I try to color, I'm ending up with the previous colors on my hand because they need time to dry and they're not really getting that chance. So probably going to finish up here and then end the stream. I'm going to do these spaces around the eyes and the tops of the ears. And then we'll be done. But still, it's been almost an hour's stream. That's not bad. I could probably normally go longer on a crafting stream that I do in the middle of the night. Gaming streams, I will be picking up with either Guild Wars or Star Wars next week on Saturday. Um, I am very much hoping that when I do, I will have the good news of, hey, we are in the process of moving into the new house. I have planned that getting the internet switched over is going to be one of the last things we do, um, because I want to make certain that it's going to interrupt our work as little as possible. So pretty much, we're mostly going to be getting like new mattresses for everybody, new bed frames for a lot of people. Like, I'm not getting a new bed frame, but my bed frame happens to be in the garage and has been in there for years and is cast iron. Um, it's actually the bed frame that was on my bed when I was a teenager, or that my bed was on as a teenager. And I've just happened to keep it all these years. And because, I figured, okay, well, maybe when the boys are older, one of them will want it. Um, Plus, it's a good quality cast iron bed frame. Can't go wrong there. Like, I don't have to worry that it's going to fall apart or break on me. It's very sturdy and solid. So, but yeah, plan is we'll get the beds set up in the new house. We'll get the rooms mostly set up, and then we will start moving people, and the internet will be moved the day that the people are, because, well, let's face it, the internet's kind of important. I believe the goal is we will actually get the internet switched over after I finish work on a Thursday morning, or possibly a Wednesday morning. Thursday morning. And then I will take Thursday night off, and we will get it switched over Thursday morning, so that when I go back, or when my partner goes back to work on Saturday, it will have been all switched over. But we'll have Friday and Thursday both, just in case there's any hiccups along the way. Always, always, always plan for something to go wrong. Which is why, a friend would go, "Are you ready to be excited yet about the new house?" And I would always be like, "No, I'm not. Because there's still a possibility it's going to be delayed." And, go figure, it was, repeatedly. So, I feel justified in my paranoia about that. I just remembered I have another color, so I'm going to use that for the interior of the ears. So I guess I'm not quite as done as I thought I was. Like, was I anticipating things taking this long? No. But I was anticipating there would be delays. There would be things that would prevent it from going completely smoothly, because well, as a friend put it, you're so used to being kicked down and beaten up by life that you don't even dare to hope anymore. And that friend's pretty much right. So, But maybe I'm willing to hope soon. We'll see. I am tentatively hopeful, maybe. I don't know. I'm just hoping that my tooth will behave enough that I can work tomorrow, or the rest of the week, really. I'm not going to get a chance to go to a dentist until probably Friday. And I might not even get the chance then, because that day Sunzu is going for her follow-up with her dentist. So we'll just have to see how it goes. But maybe, if it can hold out. I did promise a friend of mine that if I develop a fever or anything like it, I will absolutely go to the ER and get that dealt with, because, of course, when it comes to teeth, um, infections can be very, very deadly, very, very quickly. Um, so, no getting sepsis. I do not need or want sepsis, especially not right now. I've got way too much going on to get sick. I think that's the biggest annoyance with the tooth thing, is I really just don't have time to deal with it or to put up with it right now. So, but of course, the human body never chooses the most convenient time to get sick, because then we'd never get sick, because there's never really a convenient time to do so. I mean, we've all got busy lives that we really need to be just doing stuff and living. So getting sick gets in the way of that quite a bit. And it's annoying. It's especially annoying when it's a tooth problem and then you can't sleep. Because sleep's important for humans, it turns out. I've discovered I can go about 36 hours without sleep, and still be functional. I'm going to be cranky as hell, but I'm going to be able to function. I'm going to be able to do things. At 36 hours, I start having hallucinations, which is kind of a problem. At 48 hours, I become basically non-functional. This is not the first time I've had... I mean, I'm not doing it right now, thank goodness. But I have had to do it multiple times in my life, and it is not a good situation. It's why an upcoming trip that I know is going to at some point take place relatively soon, I'm planning to do stopovers at various points to prevent me pulling okay, I'm driving for, literal days on end without sleep. Because been there, done that, does terrible things to my body. Does even worse things to my brain. I keep saying I'm almost done, and then I'm like, no, wait, I can use this color here. This color, by the way, is the one that I am using as my pen to write in what I call my oh shit book, which every person should have an oh shit book. It basically contains all of the valuable information that someone would need should you pass away suddenly. Like, okay, here are the people you have to notify that I have passed away. Here are the logins, passwords, etc., so that you can, or their email addresses if that's an option. Here are the numbers for various accounts, so that you can get those dealt with. Things like that. I mean, do I plan to die anytime soon? No. But still, it's better to have things set up to ensure that that everything can be settled. And I don't mean like debts. Because once you're dead, that debt is not the responsibility of anyone but you. I don't care what the debtors will try to tell you. Never, ever, ever accept a debt for someone who has died. No. You didn't make that debt. You are not responsible. The debtors will try to, the debt collectors will try to say things like, oh, but don't you want to clear their name? No, they're dead. What does it matter? Um, I am very concerned that when my parents pass, my sister and brother will be given the unenviable responsibility of dealing with things because they don't know the fact that they don't have to accept that debt. Anyway. Very colorful, Cappy. We're going to go ahead and end our stream now. I'll probably finish this next Sunday. I am making it a point not to touch it between streams because I want you guys to see the whole thing start to finish, just like I did with the unicorn originally. Alright. I'm going to sit up again. Alright, so I do want to thank everyone who came out to view the stream. I hope that people had a lot of fun, that they enjoyed themselves watching. If anyone has suggestions or ideas on things that I should be doing in other streams, feel free to comment over on my YouTube channel, where I post all of these videos after they've been posted to Twitch. Let me just real quick double check what my YouTube channel is. It is Mason L. I don't have many subscribers, but that's okay. Just like with Twitch, I'm not looking to monetize anything. I'm just sharing things that I enjoy and hope that people also enjoy. So, again, thank everyone who came out to the stream. I hope that you had a beautiful time watching things. Hope that you have a beautiful upcoming week. If you are celebrating Canada Day, the Independence Day in the United States, any holiday, because I know there are others happening that I'm just not aware of, please do so safely. Do so in a way that is not destructive to the environment. And take care of yourself. Take care of each other. I'll see you next week. Bye.